All right, everybody. Nick Baumgardner, Orion saying Shawn, Windsor here from the Chrysler Center, where today Juwan Howard introduced. Juwan, of course, was hired last Thursday. I don't know. I've been off babysitting. So last Thursday.
May 22nd.
Yeah, he was last week. They made it official, of course, after the coaching search was about, 9 days, something like that, after John Beeline's departure. Today was his introduction, of course. Very emotional day for Juwan Howard and Juwan Howard's family as he was wiping away tears before he even got up to the podium. And then, of course, had to take a moment to... I thought it was kind of neat, right? I mean, he walked up there and you could see him look around in the building and kind of remember where he was, and he seems excited. I'll give him that.
He does.
He seems excited.
Clasped his hands, looked up, actually turned his back to the podium to try to gather himself, and several times kind of broke down. Yeah, it's a new era, right? Obviously, I mean, just from that, the emotional difference.
Yeah.
I mean, just
my God.
right. I mean,
it's night and day compared to the guy that left. And I'm not trying to dog on anybody or whatever.
No, that's not a criticism
that is
at all. It's just you can see.
Interesting piece that I think we've all talked about over the course of the last week is that I don't know how this is going to go.
Absolutely not.
In terms of on the court, X's and O's, whatever. Whether he'll be able to recruit at a high level immediately or not, I have no idea. But I would think he'll be able to relate with guys pretty well across the board. I mean, the players we did talk to today, Isaiah Livers said he jumped up in the air when he heard it was Juwan Howard and hit his head on his roof in his dorm room. I mean, they seemed excited that this is the guy.
Yeah, I think it was clear that he's going to be building on the foundation that John Beeline left in place.
Yeah.
But also he wants to create his own legacy. And we're not talking about the Fab Five or what he did as a player, just as a coach. He wasn't hired to reunite the Fab Five or re-raise the banners, as Ward Manuel said. Juwan Howard was hired because they think he can be a really good head coach from day one. And that's part of the risk and gamble. Is he's never been a head coach before. He's never coached collegiate before. So there's going to be some stumbles here and there as we move forward.
As he pointed out, and even referenced,
there's no way to...
At one point during the press conference, he pointed to Jim Harbaugh and said, "Well,
right. You would know what I'm talking about."
He said, "You can know it." Right, you're talking about making mistakes. But I found him to be a couple of things. One, he's endearing. You can see why people are just drawn to him, and you could hear that in the players that I assume you guys talked to, right?
Yeah, we did.
The way he kept talking about brotherhood, and I heard the players parroting that a little bit too. I think they're looking forward to playing that. But I think a lot of this, Isaiah Livers actually said, "Hey, I don't remember the Fab Five. His dad had to educate him on the Fab Five. What he likes, and what a lot of the guys I talked to, it's the NBA experience. It's the time in the NBA. It's the fact that he worked for
17,
Pat
18
Riley.
years.
Yeah, he played and he's coached. He was around LeBron and Wade. And all, I mean, that resonates. It does.
Yeah, from the recruits that I've talked to about Juwan, they don't know him from his Fab Five days. They know him from the ESPN documentary, the 30 for 30 on the Fab Five.
Years ago,
and they know him from being with the Miami Heat, being with LeBron and Dwayne Wade, as you
Right.
said. That's what he's had to sell on the recruiting trail, because recruits they've never seen him play, really. They've only seen footage or that documentary.
And Juwan wasn't exactly the most highlight reel inducing player.
No,
he was good.
He was a very good player,
He
but he
was.
wasn't a guy that you'd put the tape on and be like, "Oh, he's doing all
No,
these."
right,
It wasn't like that at all.
No,
which
drop
is a bad
step
thing.
on the block.
But I think he said 18 years in the NBA. I don't know the exact number, but if I can recall correctly, he was the first person
$100 million
that ever got the $100 million contract.
Right.
That guy has made more money than most. I mean, I bet you he's made close to some of the superstars you've ever thought, because he was at right timing, everything else, and
Right.
was a guy who was able to stay in the league for as long as possible, right? And I think that will be a huge selling point. It has to be kind of what he builds this whole thing around.
Isaiah Livers again said, "Hey, if I were a recruit right now, that's what would resonate with me and stop me was the NBA connections experience."
Yeah, and that takes us to our next point, is that his biggest adjustment and most crucial will be getting used to recruiting, because Michigan currently has 3 open scholarships.
Yeah.
They have 1 signing in 2019 class, Cole Badgemo. Looking forward, after the 2020 season, at minimum, they will have 5 open scholarships after John Teskey and Xavier Simpson graduate. So this 2019 class, this 2020 class are both hugely important for
Which
Juwan
will start
Howard.
signing in November.
So he has only a few months to get this going.
Yeah.
So this is huge. He needs to start recruiting. He needs to go see players play on the AAU circuit. He needs to set up officials, because people can take official visits now.
Well, and right now there's a month off. The AAU circuit doesn't pick up back up until July.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. I know that. But,
I think there's a couple weeks between a period here. They're in between periods.
They
so
are.
But players can start visiting. soon, and then you go.
They
And
can,
that'll
but you
be-
can't see him play until July.
Well, that'll be the ultimate difference. Is I think what you'll see is a situation like you said, the 18 years to get somebody to turn their head. I played in the NBA. Same thing as when Jim Harbaugh got here. Was in the Super Bowl. Everyone knows Jim Harbaugh. Everyone knew Jim Harbaugh. The first year Jim Harbaugh was here, there was 100 kids that said, "I want to talk to Jim Harbaugh. I want to talk to Jim Harbaugh." Not 100 kids. They didn't commit.
No.
It was, so the difference becomes you can maybe get them to listen, you can get them here, and then the whole different ball game is closing the deal, and that'll be what he has to learn, and that'll be what we have to watch, because we have no idea. how that's going to go. We don't have any idea how any of this will go, really. I mean, Ward Manuel sounded a little defensive to me in the whole situation about, I know you guys have all described it as a risk and blah, blah, all this. It is a risk. It's a massive risk. I mean, and I do think that timing dictated it.
Yeah.
We were pretty well tied into what was going on, and I can promise you timing dictated a lot of this. But I thought, he had to make a decision on whether or not he was willing to take the chance on Juwan Howard, and he did. And there it is. There's no looking back now. I mean, it's full guns ahead, and we'll see what happens.
If you think about his coaching style, and if you think about what we just watched, what did he talk for, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Something like that. I was just talking to somebody who was on Beeline staff who was here today. There's still some guys around.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And what he was impressed with was how Juwan took his time to answer, and how you could see him thinking through, and how he talked about how much he likes to learn and ask questions. In fact, the players talked about that already in their first meeting, that he was like that a little bit. So that's at least a good sign. I mean, who knows about the strategy and all that, like you say, Orion, but in terms of the personality and the willingness to learn and be open and not think you have all the answers, that's important.
I don't know how, and I mean, it's one of those things where you can't grade something like this until it's several years down the road. I just don't. I'm having a hard time where I land on it, because the timing was a disaster.
It was
a total disaster. The timing, obviously, it would have been ideal if this happened around the Final Four. But I'm telling you, the timing would have been better if the day before the regular season, John Beeline said, "I'm going to coach the Cavs." That would have been better timing than this. This was a total nightmare, timing-wise, that constrained his search. That, frankly, I think it absolutely would have gone differently if it were in a different time.
Yeah.
But it didn't, and now we're gonna have to see. And maybe this is the best case scenario, given what they had to work with. I don't know, but
In Chicago, the first thing Ward said when asked about the qualities he was looking for, he was saying he wanted a proven coach with a track record, with a proven track record.
He didn't get that.
He didn't get that. That was one of his first things he wanted.
Yeah.
And look, to your point, if Beeline had left the day before the season started, it would have just promoted Saudi
Just give
Washington.
it to Saudi Washington, and you go do a search.
Exactly.
You take your time with it.
Exactly.
There's so many other ways this could have gone, and this is I don't want to say that this is the only way Juwan Howard could have gotten this job, but it kind of is. I don't think he would have been the guy if this happened like around the Final Four. I mean, Ward said today maybe he would have been. Mm-hmm. Maybe he would have been. Maybe he would have blown him away. But, by all accounts, he did blow him away. Is that the week he got hired started with no promises. And Juwan Howard said it. No promises that he was going to get an offer. No promises that he was going to get the job.
Right.
And they went into that Tuesday before they talked to him. No promises he was getting an offer. No promises he was getting a job. He didn't get an offer the day that they talked to him. Got it the next day. So, obviously something was, those two met. And
to your point about Ward Manuel being defensive, I don't think that was for us at all. I think it was just
I think it was for everybody. I think it was for fans and everybody else.
And for Howard in particular. Like, I've got your back. And you had the alumni, the donors sitting there, and et cetera,
and you had Jim
right?
Harbaugh and Carol Hutchins and these people here today that all said the same thing, that they trust Ward Manuel, and they're trying to put together a unified front, which I think is important. I think that it could have been very challenging for these guys if Ed Cooley would have gotten offered the job and Ed Cooley accepted. It might have been tougher to sell it. This, on the short end, is an easier sell.
It is.
On the long end,
we'll see.
We're going to find out. So, anybody got anything else? We good?
I think we're good for now.
Well, stay tuned to Freep.com. We'll have all the rest of the fallout and everything else as Juwan Howard's coaching staff will come together, the recruiting, everything else. Orion will be on top of that, of course. For Orion, Shawn, I'm Nick. We'll talk to you guys later.